Howard County than it is in DC. So I envy you all. But what I'm very excited to talk to you about today is the fact that disability advocacy for me is not just a paycheck, it's a passion. Because as Evan indicated in his very generous introduction that my grandmother would have loved, that I have cerebral palsy, but I also have um, associated learning disabilities. My type of learning disability, can you hear me? Is called twice exceptionality, which means that I have um, a very high IQ, but also some very significant learning disabilities, which meant that I took honors English and history courses while at the same time taking special education, math, and science courses, because those were the parts of my brain that were impacted by the cerebral palsy, because cerebral palsy comes as a result of brain damage. I've spent my entire career in the disability space. And in addition to all the policy work that Evan talked about, I also was a special education teacher before. And I am in charge of everything related to JFNA's disability policy priorities. And humbly, I think that I bring a unique credibility to the work, because when we're lobbying for increased special education funding, I can talk about being a special education student and a special education teacher. Or when we're talking about Medicaid, I can talk about people I know who have benefited from Medicaid and what a lifeline it is for people with disabilities, etc. People ask me all the time, are you glad that you have cerebral palsy? And I say, absolutely not. I wish I didn't have it, but it gave my life a purpose and a mission. And disability advocacy is not just a job, it's my calling. And, you know, having a disability can be very frustrating and depressing at times, but I really credit my parents for saying, well, yes, it sucks that you have a disability, but there are people that are a lot worse off than you. For example, the reason I'm in this field is because my brother, he too has cerebral palsy, but just like autism, CP is a spectrum disorder. And he has an intellectual disability as part of his CP, and also he needs assistance with all activities of daily living, such as showering, shaving, dressing, etc., feeding and toileting. And so he is the reason that I'm in this field and why I'm on the board of where he lives, the Jewish Foundation for Group Homes. So coming to JFNA 5 years ago was just a perfect way to combine my passion with a job. It's been a dream job. And so what I do is, like I told you, I lobby on all of our disability related policy priorities. For example, we beat JFNA along with the coalition partners, beat back the Americans ADA Education and Reform Act, which would have shifted the burden of responsibility for compliance with the ADA from the business or from the business to the person with a disability. Because I, as a person with a disability, I use a walker and mobility scooter for long distances, would have first had to have written the business owner and said, hey, I couldn't get into your store, or I couldn't get the x-ray I needed, and please fix it. And then I would have had to tell them, I would have had to give them 180 days, 6 months to fix the problem or make substantial progress in fixing the problem. Well, what substantial progress? You had 8 steps, and now you have 6. I still can't get into your building. And, you know, I can't really wait 6 months, because what if I need to go to a funeral home or get a DEXA scan or something at a doctor's office? So we successfully beat that back. And then some other things that I've worked on at JFNA. There was a proposal by former President Trump in 2017 to per capita cap Medicaid. I won't bore you with all of the details, but it would have meant a 35% cut to Medicaid and would have been a disaster for people with disabilities and for the federation system, as 60 cents out of every federation dollar comes from Medicaid through our nursing homes, group homes, hospitals, rehabilitation centers, etc. And we have also made significant progress in addition to playing defense. Uh, there's been something since 2007 called Money Follows the Person, which enables people who have lived in a nursing home or institution, if they so choose, to move out and live at home or in a group home type setting rather than a nursing home or institution. It's totally voluntary. If people are happy in a nursing home or institution, then they can stay. But 101,540 people have made that choice to move out of a nursing home or an institution and receive support in a less restrictive setting. And it has led to a higher quality of life for those who have participated and who have participated in the voluntary program, and an approximate 20% savings compared to institutional care. I have a couple more things to say, but I'm moving towards a conclusion. One of the things that I want to say is that it's so much easier for people to come up with excuses as to why they cannot include people with a disability. Oh, it's going to be too much money, it's too much of a liability, and all sorts of malarkey that people come up with that it's based on their fears and is unfounded. But we must include people with disabilities in the Jewish community, because not only was our leading prophet Moses someone that had a speech impediment, and not only are we told that you can't put a stumbling block before the blind, but it's demographically essential, ladies and gentlemen, because the CDC reports that 1 in 4 adults in the United States, that's 25%, have a disability. And so we need to include people with a disability, with disabilities, because if we do not, we will not just lose the person with the disability, we will lose the whole family. But instead of just preaching, a lot of what I do is work with federations and their partner agencies on how they can become more inclusive and more welcoming to people with disabilities. Because if you put your mind to it, there are a lot of easy and innovative solutions. I want to close just with 2 brief stories. I think the number one misconception about people with disabilities is that they do not, that they automatically have an intellectual disability. I have had numerous people talk to me like I'm 5, like, oh, you're helping mommy get some bread today, when I was 20 years old and helping mom at the grocery store. Or when I'm visiting my brother at a group home, people thinking that I am a resident. The other thing I often hear is resistance from clergy. I once gave a speech and someone said, that was a very nice speech, but I'm a rabbi and you have to realize that synagogue budgets are very tight, and the LGBTQ Jews of my congregation want this, and Jews of color want that, and older adult Jews in my shul want this. And so it's just a very tight budget. We can't we can't make an appropriate a line item for every interest group, so to speak, in the congregation. And I said that I understood that synagogue budgets were tight, but what the rabbi was missing was that people with disabilities are included in all of the demographic groups that he just mentioned: older adults, LGBTQ, Jews of color. And so I think it's important to remember that people with disabilities are part of every facet of our community. And we are often, however, even though we are the world's largest minority, we are often forgotten. And so through the guidance I provide federations, and through the work that I do on the Hill, I'm making sure that people with disabilities are not forgotten. Lastly, hopefully some of you were able to tune into our amazing Jewish Disability Advocacy Month kickoff that we had last night with Yitzhak Perlman. 933 people joined. I'll put the registration in the chat, but we have some really exciting programs coming up about what's happening for people with disabilities in Israel and Canada. We have folks from Microsoft and Hershey and Toyota and JVS Boston talking about why it's not a matter of charity to hire people with disabilities, but good business. We have a number of other members of Congress that are going to speak, and it's just going to be an unforgettable month, and it's absolutely free. We have 180 partners, and I hope you will join us, at least for some of the virtual sessions. It will not disappoint. Thank you very much, and have a great day, and I'll take any questions. God bless you all.
Wow. Aaron, thank you, man. That was unbelievable. And I just want to make a comment, and then we'll certainly open it up for questions. And my observation is on your good point about diversity. It is something that we in Broward County, Florida, are intimately familiar with, both in terms of disabilities, in terms of our immigrant population, where 1 in 4 Broward residents is born in another country, in terms of our African American community, in which every single constitutional office locally is held by a person of color. And of course, as you know from your perch at JFNA, that Jews of color comprise 12 to 15% of American Jews. So what does that mean? It means that our community is not only changing, but changing dramatically. Thank you for leading the efforts to make the broader community aware of that. I feel as if we are in on it. We are pioneering something that is very, very important. And it's something that I think we're all very proud of here in Broward County. So Kol Hakavod, thank you. And Eleni, you want to facilitate some questions?
Sure, yeah.
Can I just add something really quick?
Yeah.
Just to follow up on Evan's point, it's also important to know, Evan, given the the significant population of African Americans in Broward County, that the prevalence rate of disability among African American and Latinos is higher than it is for Caucasians like us.
Interesting. So really interesting statistic to know. So folks, more than happy to have questions directed to Aaron. Also, any comments anyone has, or any other comments about anything in general. We have a few minutes before, while we're keeping this going. I think we're going to stop the recording, so that way everyone feels